Everyone, it is I, Chastity White Rose, and today I am on my Linux computer again. And so I'm using OBS Studio to stream. I have no camera on this computer, but I have a really good headset, and so you can hear me hopefully. And what you should see on the screen is you should see my chess game that I've made. Now here's the thing is I've done videos in the past showing the programming side of it, but basically I made my own chess game. Now there are some very key things to keep in mind about this chess game. Now it doesn't have castling. When I first started this, I had a basic checkerboard and I did not have much else. Now there are several different things I can do with it, but in order to show you all of that, I would have to switch to desktop mode. And I'm not going to do that this time because instead of showing you the boring programming code behind it, it's not boring to me, I know it's boring to other people. I'm going to show you how this game operates. So now this game, it doesn't have a way to go forward and back of played moves, but what it does have is a way to reset the entire game. So let me show you some examples. So when I click on a square, you may notice, you may notice how it changes the color of that square to a gray. Notice that everything is in black or white except what I'm clicking here with my mouse. In fact, let me see. Wait, it's not showing my mouse cursor. Okay, I need to change that. I need to huh. Yeah, I don't think it's capturing my mouse cursor. 'Cause not that it's the biggest deal exactly. Um yeah, I'm just wondering. Yeah, well anyway, you can tell that I'm able to click on it. But yeah, anyway, I'm clicking with the mouse is what I'm doing here, even though you can't see the mouse pointer on the stream as far as I'm aware. So, but let me, now if I click on black's pieces, nothing happens except the color. But if I click on white's pieces, remember, white starts the game. So if I click on white's pieces, see what it does? Not only is the square gray where I clicked, but it also shows places that piece can move. Now, like if I click on this knight, you'll see that it shows the knight can move here or here. Green means go, red means stop. So what this shows is that the knight would be able to move here, except that it's white's own pawn that's here. So it shows you that white could move to either of these green spaces, but it can't move to that red space. And notice that there's a lot of red in most of the other things here. And that's because only the knights and pawns can move on the very first turn of the game. So let's move king's pawn. Okay, so here's king's pawn. Now notice that nothing happens when I click white's pieces. That's because it's black's turn. White has moved the king's pawn 2 spaces, and so now it's time for black to make a move. So let's say that black decides to move queen's pawn 2 spaces. So now it's white's turn again. So look, white has options. White can now move this bishop. All these green squares show where white's bishop can go. It still can't go here because white's pawn is in the way. And the queen also has the option of moving out. The king also can move out 1 space, but why would it do that? The king has literally no reason to do that. That's a bad move. Um, Now my game doesn't have castling, so the king can't castle in this video. But what here? So here, okay. Let's suppose that white takes queen's pawn with this pawn. Did you see that? How it was blue, showing that the pawn could be captured? Well, that's actually pretty cool. Now, I'm going to show you something else. I recently implemented on passant. So check this out. Black moves its king's pawn 2 spaces. Now notice here that it shows that white can move this pawn 1 square forward. It doesn't show that it can do en passant. But look at this. This piece is selected. Do you see that? Do you see how I just did en passant? So I captured black's pawn as if it had moved one space. So en passant is a rule that all major chess players know. And getting that to work with my game was really hard. So my game has en passant, and it actually works. It's amazing. Also, you may notice that the board is entirely black and white, and so are the pieces. Now, these chess pieces, this set of chess pieces that I have showing here, are actually loaded from an image. What happened is I was using Winboard on Windows 11, and then I was trying to edit the image in such a way, remove the original black and white, and so it has alpha. And then I wrote the code for it to load the chess pieces from that loaded image. And there's a lot of code, tons of code, like pages of code, dedicated just to loading the image, grabbing the right pixels of the right chess piece from that image and then putting it on the screen in the right place. So there's a whole bunch of SDL recs. There's a whole lot of code. But anyway, as you see, it works. So now we've shown that en passant works. So let's show, okay, black can move this bishop. Notice that it can't move here. Yeah, so it can't move to this red square because black can't capture its own black pawn. It can move to this empty space, that's why it's green. But it noticed that this pawn is highlighted in blue. That means that the bishop can capture it. Similarly, this pawn could also capture it. Notice how this pawn, it has the option to move either one or two spaces, and that's why both of these squares are green. But it also has the option to capture this pawn. So let's do that. Let's capture this pawn with this pawn. Now look at this. This is funny. So the white queen can go out here and it can put the king in check. However, the code of my game does not recognize whether the king's in check or not. And because of the fact that my game doesn't recognize this, I can do something you could never do in any other chess game. I can move the king here, and get this, white can still capture the black king. So I have captured the black king now, but the game isn't over. Normally the game is over when the king is checkmated. But no, not in my game. I have broken chess the same way I broke Tetris. And if you don't know, I broke Tetris when I made my own Tetris game that I've shown in previous videos. But now I've done it with chess. And this is called SDL Chaste Chess. Chaste being my brand name and chess being the game. But now I've changed the rules of chess a little bit. So the white just captured the black king, but the game can still be played. So let's say that, what if I wanted to threaten this? What if black wanted to threaten white's queen, and it moves there? Well, yeah, but the white queen could move away, and the white queen has a lot of options. Um, but let's suppose that the white queen didn't notice it was being attacked and instead just moved this bishop over here. Well, then the black can take this pawn. I mean the queen. You know what I meant. You can see the game. So yeah, basically that's it. Now if I press the R key, the whole game resets. Now we're back at the start of the game. It doesn't really have a way in order to save and load, and it doesn't have a way to go step through the different things. This is meant to be a very simple tool. This is actually an extremely cool program I made. I basically made my own chess game. It needs some work. It definitely needs some improvements. But hey, I made a chess game with my computer programming skill, and that takes a lot. So, I would like to demonstrate my two favorite openings using Chaste Chess. And I'm going to show you, now that we're at the start of a game here, I'm going to show you how. Let's start with the Queen's Gambit. White moves here, black moves here, white moves here. That's the queen's gambit. So most people are actually going to accept the gambit. And if they accept the gambit, well then white gets to move the king's pawn 2 spaces. So now both of these pawns are in the center. And that's actually really good. So here, white has the advantage. So if you accept the queen's gambit, you take that free pawn that white's giving you, you're giving white an advantage. You should be aware of that when playing chess. So now it's black's turn. And see, here's the thing: is black is just in a terrible position. This is why the queen's gambit, this little trap of offering a free pawn in exchange for control of the board is so helpful because the queen can't really come and take this pawn because this queen guards it. And it can't really defend this pawn either because if it defends that pawn with that pawn, well, that's not really a problem because first of all, we have options like attacking that pawn. Well, let's say that this pawn decides, hey, let's move up 1 space and threaten the knight. Well, that's not really a problem because if you are if you're doing this, then white can put king in check here and fork with the pawn. Now, at this stage here, with the queen's gambit accepted, this happening, there is only the king is in check. So actually, there is only one good move for black to do in this situation. If it moves the bishop out and attacks the queen, then this pawn is just taken. And if it puts the queen in the way, then possible queen trade. We don't know. There is only one move that is actually good right here, and that's when black moves the knight here and defends this pawn. That's literally the only good move. But then there's another little problem. Well, if it does that, well then look what happens. Yes, it's defended the pawn, but then black can capture that knight, and then it's in check. So what's it gonna do? It can put the bishop in the way. Yeah, putting the bishop in the way is actually the best move, just because at least that way, the queen also defends the rook. But regardless, you're still doing this crazy attack against black, and then things can happen like just going back here, capturing this pawn, and sure, black can get the knight here. Maybe this was a bad example, but regardless, I'm demonstrating the game, but I'm also showing you what can happen in my favorite openings. So let's try a whole different opening. Let's try the king's gambit. So white usually moves that king's pawn, both king's pawns are moved, and now it's the king's gambit. Same as the queen's gambit, but on the right side of the board. Well, this is the crazy thing here, is that now with the king's gambit, black has the option to capture this pawn. It could totally do that. So that's what is going to happen here. Now here's the key issue. There is a move that white has to make here. When you're playing the queen's gambit, you have to make this move because by putting the knight here, you guarantee that black's queen can't come here. It'll come there, and then it will get captured by the knight. So what happens though when you put the knight here? So what is black gonna do? So what's black gonna do? Well, black will probably start, opening up other pieces, and white will develop, and black will probably come down here. And what always seems to happen is it tries to come right here with it tries to come here and attack that knight. So, typically what happens here, that's not a big deal. White sees this, and sure, it'll capture the bishop back. So now this is where white takes this extra pawn on there at this point. And then, let's just go on of some common scenarios. So white is there, and black is going to try to do something. So let's say let's say that black decides to move here and defend this square. And let's say that white tries to come here. Well, this is interesting. So black, brings this down, white captures. Black tries to bring out something else like a bishop, puts the king in check. Well, let's just block right that. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, white is in a good position. As long as the right moves are made at the start of the game, white's just in a good position. White retreats. Now, this is where it gets cool. So check this out. Now, white captures that knight. Then, of course, black wants to capture that bishop back. And look at this. Checkmate. You see that? It's checkmate if this is a real chess game. But because this is not your standard chess game and the code for check is not in the game, black just captures the queen. Then the bishop captures the king and the game just goes on. Yeah. Yeah, you see what I'm saying though? Guys, this is so cool. I made my own chess game. This is actually an extremely cool achievement. And I will be posting the current source code on my Patreon if anybody wants to wants to take a look at that. Um, but basically, I'm working on this, and the interface can be changed too. Um, and I probably would do that in a separate stream. But anyway, basically, I made this very impressive chess game. And the unique feature about my chess game is the way it highlights and color codes things. Because not every chess game does that. So this is basically computer assisted chess because you can play chess with my game. Of course, you have to play both sides. Either one person plays both sides, or there's two people sitting at a computer, both choosing where the pieces go. But I've made a virtual chessboard is what I've done, and it absolutely works. You know? Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So anyway, this is Chase Chess, and it's actually a pretty cool thing that I did. And I've been developing this on Linux. I haven't ported it to Windows yet, and that's because I just need to add castling to it. If I add castling to it, which that'll take some code, I may work on some of that today. Eventually, I will have a downloadable version for Linux and Windows that I will probably post on itch.io for people to actually play and test this game. Obviously, um, people don't have to, if they want to play chess, they don't have to play this game, obviously. They can play on chess.com or lichess.com, lichess.org, or they can play uh, with the Chess by Post app on your phone or whatever. So there's a lot of options for playing chess online. This is for playing on a computer, but without requiring an internet connection. Obviously, you have to download the game first from the internet once it's available, but it doesn't require an internet connection, is what I'm saying. It's not this game doesn't even know the internet exists. However, the internet was very immensely helpful in creating this game because I had to look up the function names of the SDL library, and hey, it works. It's just really cool. Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess that's long enough for a little demo video, but I'm very excited about this chess game I made.